Mm. Hello, hello. Are we good? I think we're good. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fight Dialogue. My name is Tim. This is the Ask Me Anything Live number 3. It is 8:30 in the morning on September 26th, 2020. Could be a historic day for the middleweight division. Why am I up at this ungodly hour, do you ask? Well, I've got work later, and I've got jiu-jitsu practice later as well. So, right after this, I'm going to go fight people, and right after that, I'm going to work. So I've got no time to waste today. I've got things to do and people to choke out. So, we're getting it done early today. So I apologize, my people in America. Shout out to you if you're watching. But yeah, this is probably going to be a stream for the Europeans today because I know a lot of you aren't awake yet. But that's all right. You'll catch it later. So I'll give it a second. I'll wait for this group to fill up here, and we'll get some questions in. Like I said, ask me anything, but I would assume that a lot of the questions are going to be about the fights tonight or the fights coming up, and that's fine. We can do questions about just martial arts in general. And as always, I will try to get to everyone's questions. Hope you're all enjoying the recent video that I put out. How good is Israel Adesanya's striking? You seem to be enjoying it so far. Got 20,000 views so far. I'm very happy with that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that you guys are watching it and engaging in that content, leaving lots of comments and stuff. Guys, I apologize if I'm sniffling or coughing or scratching my eyes or anything, but fall allergies are terrible right now. You also might hear my dogs barking in the back at some point, or at least moving around. Trying to invest in a studio at the moment. Build that in my basement. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this card up on the internet here. See UFC.com. How about UFC Fight Pass? I was at work yesterday and just going through it. Just going through work, that is. And I got like a million notifications on my phone from UFC Fight Pass telling me about all the fun stuff I was missing. I'm going to pull that up right now as well. UFC Fight Pass. Apparently there was a Titan FC card on last night. It's a Cage Warriors card. Cage Warriors 116. No. I'm sorry. That is tonight. So what did I miss last night? Yeah, Titan FC 64. Let's see. Past events. Where the fuck is past events? I don't know. Sometimes Fight Pass can be weird. Let's see. 3 straight days of live events for Cage Warriors. 3 consecutive days. Okay, so that's pretty cool, especially if you're a Cage Warriors fan. They just did 3 shows in a row, so I have to catch up on that. Love me some Cage Warriors. Some of the best European talent in the UFC has come from Cage Warriors. You know, you have your Conor McGregors, Michael Bispings, Dan Hardys, a bunch of others. I think the recent Cage Warriors, maybe he's a light heavyweight champion or a welterweight champion. I think his name is Ross Houston. He is fighting pretty soon for Bellator, making his Bellator debut, if I'm not mistaken. And that's going to be in France. Should be fun. Fun stuff. Alrighty. And this Titan FC card, Saeed Sauma versus Bobby Brents. Yeah, I'll probably catch up on that too. Was there a Polaris card? Apparently there was. I don't know if you guys watch Submission Grappling, but I definitely do. And one of the better tournaments out there is Polaris. It's based out of Great Britain, if I'm not mistaken. And they put on some pretty good cards. You know, historically, they've had a lot of great cards. They've had, you know, that's when Gary Tonin fought Rusumal Parharas. They've had a bunch of great matches. I'm not too sure about the scoring criteria or the winning criteria for that matter. If nobody wins after a certain amount of time, it goes to a judge's decision, which is better than what they used to do. It used to be if nobody wins after a certain amount of time, it's just considered a draw, which is pretty fucking lame, obviously. So it's better than it was, but I still would rather see, you know, something a little bit more definitive. But yeah, that's pretty good. So I'll catch up on the Polaris card for sure. So I'm getting ready to answer some questions here. If you're just joining us, to ask me anything, you can throw whatever questions you want out into the ether. And obviously, being that it is the day of the fight, we can talk about the fights as well. I've got Adesanya winning, but I'm not too confident about that pick, to be honest with you. You know, Costa is such a beast, and it only takes one shot, guys. Adesanya has been knocked out before. Granted, it wasn't in MMA, but yeah. When you see somebody get knocked out, their aura of invincibility is kind of, you know, it takes away from that. And just to know that, you know, Adesanya has been knocked out before, and then when he fights these big power punchers, kind of makes you wonder how his chin's going to hold up if he eats a solid shot. And in most of his fights, he takes hits, guys. He's very elusive. He's got excellent head movement, but I cannot think of a fight where he did not take, you know, at least a few solid shots. HBK, my story. What's up, man? I'll start answering questions in a moment here. Let the room fill up just a little bit more. I caught people early today, man. Yeah, it's an early one. Like I mentioned before, I've got jiu-jitsu to go to, and then I got work right after that. So I'm a busy man today. And I'll be sneaking in watching these fights at work. So don't you worry. I'll catch the fights. But yeah, should be fun. I am tired as shit right now, but I'm still gonna make it to jiu-jitsu. I've only been making it about 2 classes a week, but you know, it's better than nothing. Like I tell anybody who's trying to train or going to train, 1 day a week, 1 day a month is better than nothing, you know. Now, one day a month, you know, you're not really gonna get the blade sharper, but you might keep it from getting duller. You know what I mean? All right, so what do we got going on here? HBK My Story says, which fighter has the most exciting fighting style, in your opinion? Oh, boy. Well, it might piss some people off, but I'm going to say Conor McGregor. And before you jump down my throat about being a Conor McGregor fanboy, excuse me, I am not Conor's number one fan or anything like that. Conor is not my favorite fighter. But I got to tell you guys, I enjoy watching him fight. There's something in the air when he fights. Maybe it's an act. You know, I'm sure to some extent the things that he does are an act. But just the way Conor McGregor fights are promoted, the build-up to Conor McGregor fights, and then during the fights, win or lose, Conor McGregor fights are exciting. They are fucking exciting, man. No matter how long they last, they're exciting. I.e., the Jose Aldo fight. You know, and like I said, win or lose. You know, when he lost against Nate Diaz, that was an incredibly exciting fight. When he won against Nate Diaz, that was an incredibly exciting fight. So, no matter what, I don't think I've ever watched a Conor McGregor fight and said, damn, that was boring. You know what I mean? Or, damn, that could have been better. Every single time I watch him fight, it's entertaining. And a lot of that is not necessarily style. A lot of it is, you know, his attitude and his mentality and just his personality. But he's extremely skilled as well. Make no mistake. You'd be a fool to think that Conor McGregor is not skilled. But yeah, if we want to go off of just style alone and take everything else out, take everything else aside, who's the most exciting fighter? Just based off their skill and how they perform in the octagon? Back in the day, I would have said John Jones. Because John Jones was very exciting every single fight. Between his spinning attacks and his submissions, you know, very, very exciting fighter. Obviously, not as much anymore. He tends to play it safe a little bit. But yeah, he got a lot of style points back in the day. All right, now we're filling up here. Jimmy Arasandi, what's up, man? Sophie and Ruma, Lexo Q, I'll call you. Hello, my friend. All right. Jimmy Arasandi asks, who is Khamzat's opponent? Khamzat Chimayev, he is referring to. To my knowledge, Khamzat Chimayev is one of the only fighters in UFC history to be double booked. In terms of opponents, he was booked against Gerald Meerschaert originally, and then he was booked against Damian Maia. It might have happened in a different order, actually, but booked against both of those fighters. He just fought last weekend and knocked Gerald Meerschaert out with one punch. It's pretty much the first punch he threw. And now he should be fighting Damian Maia. I don't know when. I don't even think UFC has it on their website yet. And it might fall through ultimately. But to my knowledge, Khamzat is calling out everybody. You know, he's calling out everybody, and he wants to fight bigger name people. And I don't blame him, because I think if there's anything we do know about Chimaev, and if there's one thing that is clearly evident, it is that he is more skilled than the unranked fighters of his division. Excuse me. I think that is evident. Now, a lot of people are hyping this guy up. They're jumping to conclusions about him a little bit too quickly, I think, which is dangerous to do if you want to see a fighter succeed. You know, that's a lot of pressure to put on them. If you like Chimaev, I wouldn't do that to him so soon. But what I will say is, to me, what is clearly evident is that he is more skilled than the unranked fighters of his division, which is saying a lot because it's the welterweight division, if I'm not mistaken, or it's the middleweight division. Either or, you have a lot of fighters in those divisions. Definitely more in welterweight, but you got a lot of fighters in those divisions. And so that means, you know, there's only 15 ranked opponents in any given division. And for a large division, 15, or the top 15, is a pretty exclusive group to be a part of. Okay? So I think if Chimaev wasn't ranked before, he's probably going to be ranked now that he knocked out Mearshart. And he needs to start fighting ranked opponents now. That will give us the opportunity to accurately gauge just how good he is in terms of title contention and if he deserves to be in that conversation. But Chimaev's a beast, man. I cannot wait to see his next fight. Like I said, should be against Damian Maia, but he's calling out a bunch of people. They might double book him again. Who knows? But yeah, I'm excited to see him fight next. Now that I'm seeing more questions fill up, I'll reiterate what I said before. Guys, if you're clicking on this video, I got 12 people watching right now. I've only got 1 like. You guys are killing me. I thought you guys liked me. Are you watching me just to say bad things? I don't think so. Let's get some likes on this video. Help me out, all right? If you're not subscribed already, which I'm sure most of you are, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. And check out my other videos after this one. I will do my best to get through all of the questions that you guys have put there for me. And I appreciate any and all comments. It is an Ask Me Anything, excuse me. And there's some likes. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies, if there are any. But yeah, I will do my best to get to all the questions. I'm only going to be doing this for about an hour today, and then I got jiu-jitsu practice to go to. Obviously, if you give me a super chat, I will definitely get to those questions first. You don't have to get me a super chat. That's not something I ask for. But if you want me to get to all of the questions, that is the easiest way to do it. But I will gladly answer all your questions for free that are within my power. Okay, so Sophia Nruma says, hi. Hello. Khamzat Chimayev versus Conor McGregor. Who do you think? Chimaev, honestly. And that's not me trying to overhype Chimaev. That's just a stylistic thing. Obviously, Conor's more experienced and probably technically the better striker, but Khamzat is definitely the bigger guy and has more of a grappling pedigree. So I think that would be an easy win for Chimaev, especially given his style is so similar to Khabib. And obviously Khabib beat Conor. Okay. Jimmy Arasandi says, anybody know who Khamzat's opponent is? Yes, please help this gentleman out. He seems to be a Chimaev fan. Like I said, I think he's fighting Damian Maia next, but he could be fighting more. He says, Dana White says not Maia. Okay, well, I guess we'll find out then. Lexo Q says, Justin Gaethje's wrestling versus Khabib's grappling. What do you think? Khabib Khabib is definitely the more well-rounded fighter in terms of grappling. He has submissions, not just on top, but off of his back. We have seen Khabib fight off his back before, not in the UFC, but in other organizations, and obviously in Combat Sambo. We have not seen Justin Gaethje do the same. We have not even seen him fight on the ground in the UFC. We've only seen him do that in the WSOF and previous organizations. So just in terms of positioning and submissions, Khabib has more to offer. So I think if this fight between him and Khabib becomes a grappling match, which I'm sure at some point it certainly will, it's going to be rough for Mr. Gaethje. He's going to have a hard time keeping Khabib off of him. I do have Khabib picked to win that fight, but that isn't to say that Justin Gaethje isn't skilled. I still believe it will be one of, if not the most difficult challenges of Khabib's career. Because you have a very resilient Justin Gaethje. If you guys have not seen it before, I have a How Good Is Their Grappling Justin Gaethje, and a How Good Is Their Grappling and How Good Is Their Striking Khabib Nurmagomedov. So definitely go check those out. I plan on doing a How Good Is Their Grappling Conor McGregor, because I put a poll on YouTube yesterday or a couple days ago, and you all voted for Conor McGregor. So I will be doing that, and before the Justin Gaethje fight, I will be doing a How Good Is Justin Gaethje's Striking. So be on the lookout for that, guys. I got a lot of content planned for this channel here that I think you will all enjoy, given that so far you've pretty much all enjoyed the How Good Is Their Whatever series. Okay, Albin Bekirov asks, I think Costa will just rush Adesanya, eat some shots, but ultimately pressure him against the cage and TKO him in the first or second round. So you're saying that Costa will win with his aggressive nature. Yeah, I listen, I said before, I'm picking Adesanya to win because Adesanya is definitely the more skilled opponent. And I believe that to be true even in the grappling department. Okay? I do believe that to be true in the grappling department. Granted, that's more based off of a hunch than it is actual evidence. I don't even know what Paulo's rank is in any kind of grappling, if he has a rank. I know we wore a black belt to the weigh-ins the other day and threw a white belt at Adesanya yesterday, so I don't know if that's any indication, but I have seen Adesanya grapple in and out of the octagon, and he's very good, very good. Obviously more skilled of a striker than he is a grappler, but he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeves, guys. And with a guy that tricky and that skilled, it's hard to pick the guy who is clearly the better athlete, but I don't think he's as skilled as Adesanya. Skill before strength, my friends. I said it on the last stream. Skill before strength is a moniker that I live my life by, at least my martial arts life. Try to always be the more skilled person. I'm not exactly a great athlete, so it's possible that Costa could trap him up against the cage. Adesanya has been trapped up against the cage at times, but he does have the tendency to kind of sneak out. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Would you consider doing a TJ Dillashaw post-Dwayne Ludwig, since he is on the shelf right now? I find the vids on his tricks shift misdirections lacking. Thanks. That one is from HBK My Story. Dillashaw, yeah, he pulled a complete 180 after training with Dwayne Ludwig. Let me finish this coffee here. before it gets cold. Yeah, Dillashaw had a very stereotypical wrestler striking game when he first got to the UFC from the Ultimate Fighter. You know, he's very heavy on the front leg and had one hand up by his chin and the lead hand kind of drooping down, you know, waiting to grab a leg. And then after training with Dwayne Ludwig, his footwork became phenomenal. He became more dynamic. He wasn't just throwing overhand rights all the time, because that was another thing about TJ Dillashaw. He used to train with Team Alpha Male, and the name of their game is overhand rights. You know, not to say that you don't have some very skilled strikers in Team Alpha Male. You certainly do. But I think the general style of Team Alpha Male is, you know, being the smaller person and using your striking to set up your grappling, because Alpha Male has a ton of good wrestlers and grapplers in general. But yeah, Dwayne Ludwig being a more traditional Muay Thai fighter, and then obviously having the vast amount of experience that he's had in his own MMA career, was able to really zero in on what Dillashaw was lacking in his game: footwork, dynamism, timing, you know, even just stance. He tightened up his stance a little bit. But yeah, Dwayne definitely improved on his striking a lot. And say what you want about TJ Dillashaw and his, you know, his cheating, because he obviously cheated, but very skilled fighter, extremely skilled. Jimmy, who wins Costa Adesanya? I already answered that question, but the short answer is I'm picking Adesanya. Lexo Q says, Stipe Miocic or John Jones, who is the greatest of all time? Stipe has beaten the hardest puncher in the MMA world, Francis Ngannou, and one of the greatest jiu-jitsu masters, Fabricio Verdum, and one of the best wrestlers, DC. You know, that is a good way of looking at it. He has had his share of different styles that he's had to face, and he's overcome almost all of them. And the only one that he did not enact his revenge upon was Mr. Stefan Struve. Little known fact, Stipe was knocked out by Stefan Struve when he was upcoming in the UFC. Yeah, I still think John Jones is better than Stipe, and I hope you guys don't hate me for that answer, but heavyweights tend to be, in general, a little bit less skilled than the lighter weight classes, and there's many reasons for that that kind of contribute to that. So that's one of the reasons why I think John Jones is better. John Jones has defended his title more. He's fought a larger variety of fighters, and he's never lost before. Not in the conventional sense. He's only lost via disqualification. Whereas Stipe has faced adversity in his career and has been able to overcome it in most cases. You know, he has lost at least twice that I can think of, and they were legitimate losses. You know, not disqualification, not split decision. He got knocked out. Okay, so that's why I would put John Jones above Stipe. Stipe is certainly, at this point, I think it's safe to say that he's the best UFC heavyweight of all time. If we're talking about best heavyweights of the sport, now we're having a bit more of an argument, because, of course, you throw Fedor in there and a bunch of other fighters. But no doubt Stipe is the best heavyweight. We'll see how John Jones does at heavyweight. Maybe he takes that title as well. Who knows? Francesco Genovese. Do you think Chimaev is another hype train who will soon be derailed? It depends. It depends on what the UFC does. So far, it looks like they are hyping him up to the best of their abilities, and they have a very strong ability to hype people up. And we just saw that with Sean O'Malley. We've seen it before with Johnny Walker. We've seen it with other people. You know, an example of a successful hype train, I believe, would be Conor McGregor. When he was on his way up, they hyped him big time. And it ended up working out. And that goes to show what a... excuse me, guys. It's early in the morning. I got my allergies, and yeah, I'm just generally not a morning person. But yeah, Conor McGregor had a lot of pressure on him coming up, and he was able to overcome all of it for the most part. You know, he had his hiccups along the way, but yeah, that is an example of a successful hype train. Will Chimaev be successful? Definitely. Will Chimaev go undefeated? Is way too early to say that. And even for the best fighters in the world, most of them are not undefeated. Most of them have at least a few losses. And I think that's important for the growth of a fighter. So I think it's definitely possible that the UFC kind of overwhelms Chimaev a little bit. They might give him somebody that he's not ready for. And he might lose. You know, he will... I think he will lose eventually, yes. And probably sooner rather than later. But I think it's important that he gets those losses in a little early. Granted, if you're fighting in the UFC, I wouldn't call it early. You've probably been an MMA fighter for quite some time now. But just early for his UFC career. You know, I don't think he'll be going on a title run yet. I want to see him fight the more experienced guys of the division, man. I want to see him get his licks in. I want to see him get into bad spots and see if he can find his way out, you know, overcome those things. So he's, in my mind, he's definitely the strongest prospect, the strongest UFC rookie out there right now. Could get Rookie of the Year, you know what I mean? But yeah, we got to wait and see. Jimmy Arasandi says, I like you, bro. Thanks, bro. I like you too. Bro. Reminds me of that meme. Mike says, like. Thanks for the likes, Mike. And he also says, fight prediction for Izzy versus Costa. I got Adesanya. I went into more detail about that earlier in the video. Francesco Genovese. Paulo Costa has talked a lot about him getting his black belt in BJJ during the press conference. Could it be possible to see him grapple or shoot for a takedown? Yeah, definitely. I would, if I was rooting for Costa, which I'm not necessarily rooting for anybody. When I watch MMA, I don't really root for anybody. I think that's the most fun way to watch fights. If you go into a fight just wanting to see an entertaining match, that's the best way to watch MMA, man. Now, don't get me wrong. There have been many times where I was cheering for somebody to win because I didn't really like the other guy too much. But I don't know how people bet on fights because that takes the fun out of it for me. If I'm like so focused, like, oh man, I got a lot of money on this guy. I really want this guy to win. And then he ends up losing, and then I lose money, and then I get disappointed. And it ultimately turns my whole experience of watching MMA, which is my favorite thing to do. It ultimately turns that into a negative 50% of the time. Now, granted, when you win a lot of money and you win a bet, it's obviously great. But, yeah, don't bet on fights. But, yeah, Costa should definitely test his grappling against Adesanya. get some ground and pound in. Adesanya is no slouch on the ground, and even though if that is true that Costa has gotten a black belt, I didn't watch any of the press conferences, but if that's true, Adesanya is, or Costa is the better grappler on paper, right? He's the better grappler on paper. So I don't know how much you look into those types of things, but we haven't seen Costa really use his grappling too much yet, let alone against a championship caliber fighter. So Izzy's got those submissions off his back, man. But if Costa can pin him up against the cage, take away that hip mobility and that area that you need to pivot to get those triangles and arm bars, and just lay down some hammer fists, man, I think it's going to be a long night for Izzy. But I don't know. I don't know what Costa's takedown setups are like. I don't know if he's crafty enough to really get Izzy down to the floor. Keeping him on the floor is a little bit easier than getting him down to the floor. I think Costa should have what it takes to keep him on the floor if it gets there. But it's that initial takedown that's going to be a big deal. Genevieve says, which do you think is the best, MMA gym or camp out there? Which is the best MMA gym or camp out there? Well, I mean, I haven't been to any of them personally, so I can't speak to any of them on a personal level. Certainly one of the most successful ones of all time, and Tarantula Hawk, I skipped over you. I apologize. I will get to you in a moment. But one of the reasons, or one of the camps out there is Jackson Winklejohn. You know, the Black Zillions was very successful for a while. You got American Top Team. You got AKA, which is a big deal right now. But yeah, I can't speak personally for any of those. Tarantula Hawk, what's up, bro? He says Costa's going to gas out. Izzy is going to pick him apart. That's definitely a possibility too. This will be the first 5-round fight we see Costa participate in. Now, obviously, it might not even go to 5 rounds, but yeah, I think Izzy. It is in Izzy's best interest to drag this fight out. So if you're expecting a slobber knocker in the first 2 rounds, I think you might be disappointed. Adesanya has a very similar style to Anderson Silva. He will not screw around, but play it very safe, at least in the first 2 rounds, to feel you out, see how you react, get his timing, get his range down, and then he'll start to attack and to counter. We've seen him fight aggressive fighters before. We saw it against Robert Whittaker. And Adesanya didn't have as much time to kind of play around and get a feel for his opponent in that fight, because Robert Whittaker was aggressive from the get-go, and that forced Adesanya to find his range and his timing more quickly than he normally does. He had to really be on top of his game in terms of countering in that fight, which he was, but he did take some shots. And I think it's going to be similar against Costa. And the big deciding factor will be, does Adesanya's chin hold up against the shots that he is inevitably going to take? And his chin has held up so far in MMA, but Costa's a different animal, dude. So I think, Adesanya will be able to counterpunch him into oblivion so long as his own chin holds up, because he's going to take some. Jimmy Arasandi says, someone said that a gas tank is worth more than skill. To an extent, that is true. Durability is a very big deal, too. Is it more important? No, I don't think so. And strength is important too, guys. Just being an overall good athlete is super important, especially at a professional level. But when I say skill before strength, skill is the paramount attribute that is needed for fighting. You need to have skill. You need to know more than your opponent does. Okay? And if you do, most of the time you should win. Okay? Now, athleticism, speed, strength, cardio, those are all things that will be the tiebreaker in the case that both fighters are of equal skill or at least comparable skill. Okay? And obviously, at a professional elite level, most fighters are going to be at a comparable skill level. Okay? So that's why there is so much emphasis on speed, gas tank, strength, all these other things, you know, that you also have to work for. You know, a lot of people are born athletic to a degree, but you still have to facilitate that athleticism by working out and doing all that other stuff. That's no fun. But yeah, don't forget that skill before strength. I should make a T-shirt that says that. Would you guys buy a T-shirt if I made one that said that? Had the little Fight Dialogue logo off it. Another one from Mr. Genovese. I hope I'm saying your name right, my friend. It appears Neil Magny could be next for Chimaev. That's a good test. It's a very good test for Chimaev. I would love to see that. Sorry, I'm skipping around here. I'm not good at reading. Need to go back to school. I'm kidding, but I'm just getting a little mixed up here. HBK, my story. Champ, are you interested? You don't have to call me Champ. But you can call me, I mean, you can call, I've been called worse, but that's fine. Do your thing. Are you interested in creating a video about Wonderboy, Michael Venom Page, or Raymond Daniels, since they all strike from the same stance? He wants me to make a how good is their striking, I'm assuming. Yeah, that would be cool. I tend to make videos about certain fighters that are like trending. Usually, I did make a GSP video, which, you know, and GSP is kind of always trending to an extent because he's such a skilled and famous fighter. But yeah, I tend to feature fighters who will have fights coming up within the next few months. That's why I'm going to be doing a how good is their striking for Justin Gaethje. But yeah, I could definitely do those guys eventually. My video making process is a little bit slow. I don't exactly crank the videos out. I'm not one of those YouTubers that makes a video every day. Trust me, guys, if I had the time, I would do it. But I got a day job and I got a family to take care of, so I pump the videos out at a slower pace. So there's a lot of you that have great suggestions for guys that I should feature in my videos, and they're, like I said, they're all great suggestions. And I hope to get to as many of them as I can as soon as possible. But bear with me on my output rate of videos, because it's hard to balance work, family, and YouTube sometimes. Another one from Genovese. I think Adesanya will win too. I'm going with Izzy. But I don't think he will knock Costa out. Fair enough. Costa is very durable. He showed that in the Yoel Romero fight. Jimmy Arasandi says life is all about chill, coffee chair, cigarettes, UFC channel, Costa, and Chimaev. I agree with some of those, not all of them, though. Francesco Genovese. Costa absorbed some bombs that would have put away many in that war against Romero. Yes, he did. I don't think Adesanya hits that hard. He relies more on accuracy and timing rather than power. You're absolutely right, sir. But as Conor McGregor said, what did he say? I don't want to misquote him. Timing beats speed, and precision beats power. That's what he said. And he said that post Jose Aldo fight. So it's kind of hard to argue that, whether you like him or not. Reddick, LOL. What's going on, man? Glad to have you. He asks, do you think power punchers are born or created? I think it has a lot to do with mostly skill. Okay. A lot of it has to do with the timing of it. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Whether the guy is moving forward into the strike or not, whether you are moving into the strike or not. Perfect example of that is you throw out a jab. Most people, when they throw a jab, they're not knocking anybody out. But if you really step into that jab, make it a power jab, sink down into that punch, like GSP was known for, now you got a very powerful strike that could potentially knock people out. But I think there are some more human X factors that go into it. Bone density, obviously just the strength of your body. So I think it's a little bit of both. ZZ Cross Z. What do you think about Rory McDonald's grappling? Rory has very underrated grappling in MMA. If we're talking about like a pure jiu-jitsu match, he's nothing, too crazy. But for MMA, he mixes it in very well. He's got amazing wrestling. He's got good submissions too. He's threatened with many submissions in his career. I don't know how many times he's won via submission though. Francesco says, I am Italian, so I shall ask you, what do you think about the two main Italian fighters, Alessio Sakara back in the day and Marvin Vettori? Alessio Sakara was a beast back in the day. Unfortunately, his chin's not so good anymore. I don't know if he's still fighting. Last I checked, he was still in Bellator. But yeah, Alessio Sakara was a beast back in the day. Probably the best Italian fighter of all time. Marvin Vettori, very underrated. That was a huge win for him. I forget who he fought recently, but he TKO'd the guy. Or maybe he beat him up first on the ground and then submitted him. I forget what exactly happened in his last fight. I just know he won. And, we're talking about a guy that went the distance with Israel Adesanya. I think he's ranked number 14 right now. So he's a beast, man. So probably Marvin Vettori is more well-rounded and just generally skilled. But I think that Alessio Sakara has the better career and the bigger names on his resume. And he asks, why is everybody ducking Vettori? Well, Vittori's not exactly a big name. He's kind of low in the rankings, as far as ranked fighters go. So I don't know about ducking Vettori. Maybe just, I don't know if he's having difficulties getting fights or not, but I don't think people are ducking him. Maybe they are. He's really good. Who knows? Y Yin Tam. Guys, if I'm pronouncing your names wrong, please correct me. I'd rather be corrected than sit here and pronounce your name wrong for an hour. But Y Yin Tam says, why do you think that the odds between Costa and Adesanya are so even? A lot of people have Adesanya winning. Yeah, but the betting odds never go off of, or they rarely go off what everybody else thinks. It's all about what the media thinks, I guess. This could be Adesanya's biggest test to date. And whenever you get a matchup like that, the odds tend to be a little bit more even. Reactive Rhino, hello, sir, or madam. Your name is kind of gender neutral, so I don't know how to address you. But what do you think about Conor McGregor maybe fighting Manny Pacquiao? Personally, I think Conor's going to get beat up worse than he did against Mayweather. Definitely possible. But honestly, I think McGregor fares a better chance against Pacquiao than he did against Mayweather. Because Pacquiao is not nearly as elusive as Mayweather. And Conor McGregor did hit Mayweather quite a bit. If I'm not mistaken, more than anybody else has ever hitten is not a word. More than anyone has ever hit Mayweather before. So he would almost certainly get some great shots off on Pacquiao. Not to mention, Pacquiao's past his prime, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what he has left. He obviously has enough to be competitive at a high level, but to box up Conor McGregor, I don't know. Conor McGregor would probably take some shots in that fight. Boxing isn't my forte. I do watch the occasional boxing match, especially the high level ones or the high profile ones, but that's hard for me to say. But I would pick McGregor in that fight, to be honest. Now, if we're talking Pacquiao in his prime, I got Pacquiao all day. I'll answer a few more questions here, guys, because like I said at the beginning of the stream, I've got some jiu-jitsu practice to go to. I've got some people to choke out, and then I have work right after that. So I'll get to the last of the questions here, and maybe any more that trickle in. Arcanite says, do you think the weight cut and the Middle Eastern weather will hinder Costa? Possibly, especially since he's had not cardio issues, but gas tank hasn't been the best. It's been serviceable. It's not the worst. We've seen worse gas tanks, but his gas tank is not his strength, and that very well could be due to the weight cut. He cuts a ton of weight. Middle Eastern weather, I think, has less to do with it, but I imagine it just generally sucks to be that hot and sweaty while you're trying to cut weight and stuff. So yeah, could play a factor, but more so when it comes to the weight cut rather than the weather. James Anthony, do you think there should be a 165-pound division? Yes, but I'm a little bit different than everybody else in the sense that I think the whole middle range of divisions should be kind of reworked. I think the 170 belt should become the 175 belt, and I think they should introduce a 165-pound belt because a 5-pound gap is a little weird, I think, and it would be the only 5-pound gap within all the ranks and divisions of the UFC. So I think it would be better to bump 175 up by 5 pounds and then create 165. But yeah, there's too many fighters in those two divisions, in 155 and 170. So you need to add another one to help those guys out. Jimmy Arsandi, soon your YouTube will grow and be your primary money source, I believe. God, I hope so. I fucking hope so. I'd love this to be my main job. But at the moment, it is not paying the bills. I am a supervisor in a warehouse at the moment. It's how I pay my bills and put bread on the table for my family. But I would love for YouTube to be my primary source of income. Kautsar or Kutsar MW. Anthony Rumble's chances on touching UFC gold. Much lower now that he's kind of sort of retired, I guess. He said he might come back, but he fought for it twice, so I don't see him getting a title shot anytime soon unless it's for heavyweight. But he's got enough power to knock anybody out, so anything's possible. Tam. Or Tam. Wow, thanks, people. You really pronounced my name correctly. Well, I'm glad I managed. Alexander. Oh boy. Alexander Mikolajczyk. Yeah, that's definitely wrong. It's definitely an incorrect pronunciation. I'm going to guess that you are either Polish or some kind of Slavic ethnicity, hence the difficult spelling and jumble of alphabetical letters in your last name. So apologies for screwing that one up, but Alexander is easy enough. So how do I shave my head? With a razor, Gillette razor. I use shaving cream. I usually wear a hat, but it's, I started this stream at 8:30 in the morning. I'm not wearing a hat at 8:30 in the morning in my house when I wake up. Relative Rhino. All right, I have to go now. Thanks for answering my questions. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching, Rhino. Appreciate it. Francesco says, what do you think about the best way to develop cardio and endurance for grappling, especially when fighting off your back with your opponent on top carrying your weight, or vice versa? Yeah, that is exhausting. Oh, Mustafa Ghaffar has just joined. Good to see you again, my friend. Best way to build cardio on the ground. Fight longer rounds and learn to pace yourself. Grappling is a different kind of cardio than striking. I can roll for 45 minutes on the ground, people. Granted, grappling is more of my forte than striking is, but it's a different kind of cardio. I can go 45 minutes grappling and then barely be able to make it out of a round of kickboxing. You're using different muscles, you're moving differently. Stalling is an important aspect of grappling. When you get to a dominant position, you stall to tire the guy out, and now your submissions come a little easier. Stalling is de-incentivized in most competition. That is more so done for the viewers than it is for the fighters or for the recipient of the dominant position. It's more done so that it becomes a little bit better for the spectators. They take stalling out. A little bit of it is that they say stalling is for people that are unskilled. You're only stalling because you want to win the fight the easy way or whatever the case may be. But stalling is an important part of grappling, okay? It is 100% a legitimate tool to use. But yeah, fight longer rounds. If you're only going for like 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, go longer. Go longer than that. Learn to get exhausted and still be able to operate with skill and technique. And I mean, as long as you have your guard, it's not as exhausting. If the guy has side control on you, then it's extremely exhausting, especially since all that weight is on your upper torso. But from your guard, it's not as exhausting to fight. Marcin Straku Opalka. Probably pronouncing that one wrong too. Apologies. Tony Ferguson or Dustin Poirier, who wins? Dustin Poirier, I believe. But that would be a fucking amazing fight. I don't know if it's set in stone yet, if it's going to happen, but that would be an amazing fight. But I picked Dustin for that one. Yeah. Cracker Whacker asks, who do you see being the lightweight champ after the Khabib and Tony fight and Conor's retirement? I think Khabib wins against Tony. I don't think he rematches Conor. I think the next person after Khabib wins, who the fuck else do we have in that division? Hold on. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up right in front of me here. Rankings. I'm just drawing a blank right now. I'm sorry. Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson, Dan Hooker, Conor McGregor, Charles Oliveira. Yeah, I think not Conor McGregor. I think Khabib beats the shit out of Dan Hooker. No offense to Dan Hooker. He's very skilled, but I think that's a bad matchup for Hooker. And Charles Oliveira, that would be an interesting one. Because we have not seen Khabib fight somebody who has that level of submission threats on the ground. He would certainly be able to take down Oliveira, but Oliveira could very well manage to throw up a bunch of submissions off his back, make life difficult for Khabib. Tony Ferguson, though, man, I still think Tony Ferguson has one of the best chances to beat Khabib, even more so than Gaethje, even though Gaethje beat Ferguson. But MMA math doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen, and styles make fights. Mustafa, my friend, thank you for the super chat. What do you think about Cannonier's chances at middleweight? I think Cannonier is the dark horse of middleweight. I think he has a very good chance at gold in the middleweight division. I would like to see him fight Adesanya next, actually. I think that is the most interesting matchup. I think Cannonier has a fight booked already, though. I think he's going to be fighting Darren Till, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's bigger than Till. Darren Till. Did I say Darren Till? I hope I did. Yeah, I like his chances against Till very much, and I think he could give Adesanya some problems. All right, last two questions, ladies and gentlemen. Or last question, I should say. This one is again from Francesco. For striking, how to stay relaxed and loose on your feet, apart from, that will come with experience, quote, that many people say. Well, it does come with experience, because the more skilled you become at a certain art, the less you have to use your athleticism and your other X factors and tiebreakers to kind of compensate for your lack of skill. That's a large reason people get tired, is because they're using their cardio to compensate for a lack of skill. Okay? So if you are less skilled than the person you're fighting, you need to rely on that cardio to get you through the fight. You need to rely on your strength, rely on your speed to make up and compensate for a detriment in skill. So if you are the more skilled fighter, you should not gas as quickly as the other guy. So that's why you hear the quote, it comes with experience. But one of the things to get your cardio better in striking, from what I understand, is running. All the best boxers of all time, you see them skipping rope, you see them running on the side of the road. There's a reason for that, Running is a great cardio exercise. So they call it doing road work in the boxing community. If you want to get better cardio for striking, you need to do some road work. Mustafa Ghaffar says he's taking Whitaker next. Yeah, Whitaker versus Cannonier. You're absolutely right. I like that matchup. That should be fun to watch. Well, guys, that about wraps it up. I really appreciate you guys watching this, especially so early in the morning for my American comrades. I kind of do these randomly. I kind of spring them on you guys. So just to have any viewers at all is a success in my book. Make sure you guys check out the Patreon, check out the merch, check out the videos we got coming up. How good is Israel Adesanya's grappling? I'll leave a link for that at the end of this. Should be good. I'm going to go choke people out, and then I got to go to work, and I'll try to catch these fights while I'm at work. I'll kind of sneak them in on my phone while my manager's not looking. Like I said before, I'm the supervisor, so I can get away with some stuff. But, you know, I can't just sit there on my phone the whole time, the whole 9 hours or whatever it is. But you guys enjoy the fights. I'm sure they will be pretty good tonight, at least some of them. You never know about the main event. I don't want to jinx it, but it should be fun. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.